Good morning, church. We'll read one verse from Psalm 16, verse 11. You will make known to me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. In your right hand there are pleasures forever. In your presence is fullness of joy. David is saying, in God's presence is fullness of joy, and only in God's presence. But what is fullness of joy? Does it mean that we have to be happy all the time, smiling all the time? Not really. It is not the absence of suffering, but the presence of God that brings the fullness of joy. And what is the presence of God then? Because God has said that I will never leave you nor forsake you in Hebrews 13:5. Then do I have to seek God? Do I have to do something different to see his presence? Well, a lot of Christians, a lot of believers live a life without having a personal relationship with Jesus. And if if we are not walking in the spirit, and we're not having an intimate relationship with Jesus, then it's difficult that we experience the presence of God. The presence of God is something that we need to seek because it's God's desire. He wants us to take delight in his presence. But there are some hindrances when we look at a few things when we realize that maybe we are not experiencing the presence of God the way we would want it. And for many Christians, it's a rare experience. Maybe it just happens, few times in life. So, what hinders us from having this presence of God? We'll just look at a couple of them. The first thing is our expectations from the world. We A.W. Tozer says that there is too much of world in us. We rely a lot on the world system to satisfy our inner needs. And when we don't find it, we go for more and more. There is a constant need to entertain ourselves, and if we are not entertained, then we lose interest. There is uh, always uh, a hunt for finding ways to make us happy. And this happens not only for unbelievers but also for believers. And strangely, we feel that somehow something will give us the joy. The other hindrance is our reliance on religion. uh, we live a very busy life, and our Christian activities are also keeping us busy. Our calendar is full. We do have a lot of maybe prayer meetings. We can have a lot of services where we fellowship, or we can listen to sermons. We can read a lot of books on the Bible. But we need to be careful because there is an information overload. There is a tendency to even spend a lot of time on something which may not be as effective in our spiritual walk. We need to have that spiritual discernment uh, to use our time wisely in this world of endless talks on conspiracy theories or political affiliations or social media. We need to be careful on how we spend our time. Often we have prayer times where we just need that feeling, or we go to church and we go for some feeling, and then we leave and lead our normal life. So religiosity can be a hindrance to the presence of God, because we often neglect our quiet time with God, our solitude with God. And the way it results is we then lose interest and we lose the motivation. We don't see anything happening, and we're not able to concentrate. It dull our senses, and we want to uh, we become like Peter, who went back for fishing when he saw that Christ is crucified. And how do we overcome these hindrances? Uh, I think David is a good example. David took time to be in the presence of God daily, and we can see from the way his relationship was, his heart was towards God. Not that he was perfect, but uh, we know that his heart was in the right place when it comes to having a personal relationship with God. And he had this way of enjoying this intimacy with God, and he had this way of praying and waiting upon God to listen to his voice, his instructions in every area of his life. And he had this way of being silent before God, and always anticipate that he's going to experience the presence of God. And we can see that in many of the great psalms he has written. So yes, God works in mysterious ways. It's not that we have to wait for a big moment to experience the presence of God. We can experience the presence of God in the most unexpected ways, in our mundane things of life. Maybe we are doing our daily chores, singing, and we experience the presence of God, or maybe we get answers to our prayer, and there we experience the presence of God. Maybe we are reading some verses, and then God speaks to us, and we experience the presence of God. Maybe we're just meditating on his goodness and all the things that he has done in our lives, or we're helping the needy. That's when we experience his presence. Or maybe we are just uh, uh, pondering on all the things that he's doing in the church with fellow believers. We listen to some testimony, or somebody's comforting us in different ways. We experience his presence, and once we experience his presence, we would then not go after worldly things, which will give us diminishing returns always. And setting aside a time uh, to be quiet, and to anticipate that God will manifest himself, and he will quicken us, or he will give us that renewed energy to to live our lives, and to walk in his will. So that seeking his presence on a daily basis is something which definitely will not only help us, but it will give God the glory. And over a period of time, when we see this, we will be overflowing with the abundance of joy that we would experience, and we can share that with other people, and that will only bring God the glory. Amen.